on Goblin Reddit. Today's story is...
My cousin stayed at our house and ended up stealing my husband. What my grandparents did 2 years later, nobody saw coming, not even me. Last year, I discovered that my husband Matt was cheating on me with my cousin Rhea. Yes, you heard right, my own cousin. She is 8 years younger than me. To make matters worse, Matt and I already had a 10-year age difference. He was in his 40s, and you would think that at his age he would have the maturity and self-control to stay faithful, but clearly that was not the case. Instead, he decided to betray me by starting an affair with someone I considered family, someone I had welcomed into my own home. At the time, when all this started, Rhea had just finished university and had got her first job in my city. She was excited about this new chapter in her life, but she was having a hard time finding an apartment. She asked me if she could temporarily stay with Matt and me while she was still looking for her own place. Of course, I accepted without thinking twice because, after all, she was my cousin, and I wanted to help her. It wasn't supposed to be permanent, just a temporary solution until she found her own place. When I told Matt about Rhea's situation and that she would be staying with us for a while, he seemed unusually enthusiastic. In retrospect, that should have been the first alarm bell, but at the time I didn't think anything of it. When Rhea moved in, things seemed fine at first. During her first week with us, Matt couldn't stop complimenting her. He made such a fuss about how beautiful she had become, commenting on how much she had grown since the last time he had seen her. He even mentioned that she had been just a child back then, but now she was fully grown and a real adult. It seemed a little strange to hear him say that, but I ignored it. I thought he was just trying to be nice or make her feel welcome. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that something deeper was going on between them, or that there could ever be. But as the weeks went by, my husband started to lavish her with compliments. What made it worse was how much Rhea seemed to enjoy his attention. She would smile, laugh, and respond in a way that made me feel a little uncomfortable, but I kept telling myself that I was overreacting. Then they followed each other on Instagram, which seemed strange to me. Matt wasn't the type to connect with people on social media, not even with family members, so this seemed a bit out of character. When I asked Matt about it, he dismissed it, saying that Rhea had wanted to follow him first, so he just followed her back. In retrospect, there were so many warning signs, but at the time I never imagined that anything could actually happen. For one thing, Matt and Rhea had a big age difference. He was in his 40s and she had just started her career. It seemed impossible that there could be any attraction between them, and besides, she was my cousin. They were family. I thought there was no way they would cross such a line. I thought the worst that could happen was that they would tease me for becoming too friendly, not that they would betray me in the most painful way possible. But how wrong I was. One night, I came home from work to the scenario that would change everything. As I walked through the house, I noticed that something felt strange. When I got to Rhea's room, I opened the door to find her and Matt together, completely tangled up in bed. They were drunk, and it was obvious that they didn't even care enough to try to hide it. When they finally noticed me, my cousin let out a loud scream and hurried to cover herself with the sheets. Meanwhile, Matt had the audacity to get angry with me, as if I were the one doing something wrong by discovering them in the act. He even shouted at me to leave the room, as if I were interrupting them. I was beyond furious. My hands were shaking with anger, but I knew exactly what to do. I took out my phone and started taking photos of them, proof of their betrayal. Rhea and Matt panicked, begging me to stop and delete the photos, but I wasn't going to let them get away that easily. I can be a good person most of the time, but when someone pushes me too far, I know how to stand up for myself and get tough if I have to. Ignoring his pleas, I stormed out of the room and started packing all of Matt's belongings into a suitcase. He followed me, looking panicked, and I kept wondering what he was doing. Without even looking at him, I told him coldly that he needed to leave my house immediately. At that point, he changed tactics and started begging for forgiveness. He claimed it was a one-time mistake and that they had both been too drunk to realize what was happening until it was too late. His excuses were pathetic, and, honestly, they only made me angrier. I didn't waste my time or energy listening to Matt's pathetic excuses. His words fell on deaf ears because I knew they were meaningless. Once I had finished packing his things in a suitcase, I handed it to him and told him bluntly to get out of my house. His pleas and apologies did not move me in the slightest. He had made his choices, and now he had to face the consequences. After dealing with Matt, I went downstairs to find Rhea, and she was sitting there with tears streaming down her face. The moment she saw me, she started pleading. "Please, just listen to me," she cried, her voice trembling, but I wasn't going to let her manipulate me with crocodile tears. The betrayal was too deep, too personal. Instead of listening to her, I walked over and slapped her across the face, something I never thought I would do to someone I love, but at that moment all I could think about was how much she had hurt me. I reminded her exactly who I was to her. "Do you realize what you have done to me?" I asked her, my voice trembling with anger. "I am your sister. I raised you in many ways. I taught you to ride a bike. I taught you to cook. Every Christmas and every birthday, I made sure you got what you wanted. When you needed a place to stay, I opened my home to you without thinking twice. And this is how you repay me, sneaking off with my husband in my own house?" She just sat there sobbing, unable to respond, but I wasn't finished. I made it clear that there was no going back. "This is unforgivable," I told her. "You've crossed a line that can never be crossed again." Then I gave her a choice. She had 15 minutes to pack her things and leave, or I would set all her belongings on fire. Rhea knew me well enough to know that I wasn't bluffing when I was this angry. She had seen my temper before and understood that I was serious. She didn't argue or protest. She just nodded, still crying, and went to pack her things. Only after Matt and Rhea had left my house did I allow myself to cry. I didn't want to cry in front of them, but once I was alone, I broke down. How could they do this to me? I knew I couldn't keep what had happened a secret, not when it involved people so close to me. So I made a decision. I created a group chat that included all the members of my family, my parents, grandparents, all my cousins. Once the group was set up, I sent the photos I had taken of Matt and Rhea together, along with a message explaining what had happened in my house. I told everyone that my marriage was over and that I would cut Matt and Rhea out of my life completely. The response was swift and overwhelming. Within hours, my phone was flooded with messages from family members expressing their shock, anger, and disbelief. Most of them couldn't believe what Rhea had done. They were furious with her and Matt for betraying me so deeply. The support I received from my family was a small comfort in the midst of the chaos. But not everyone was on my side. My aunt, Rhea's mother, was the only exception. She kept trying to calm me down, desperate to defend her daughter. When I finally took her call, she immediately started telling me how terrible Rhea felt about what had happened. "She's young and stupid," my aunt kept saying, as if that made everything okay. She tried to frame Rhea's actions as a lapse of judgment, something that should be forgiven and forgotten. My aunt even went so far as to suggest that I let Rhea move back in with me because, according to her, family always sticks together no matter what. It felt like she was trying to minimize Rhea's betrayal, and that only made me angrier. I interrupted her mid-sentence and told her bluntly that being young and stupid was no excuse for her daughter to sleep with someone's husband. "If Rhea is old enough to make the decision to sleep with my husband," I said, "then she is old enough to live on her own and face the consequences of her actions." My aunt tried to argue, but she wasn't going to give in. I made it clear that I wouldn't let Rhea back into my life, much less my home. She had made her choices, and now she had to live with them. Throughout it all, I never doubted that what I was doing was the right thing. After what Matt and Rhea had done, there was no way I could stay in that marriage. The betrayal was too great, too painful, far beyond repair. So I made the decision to file for divorce. It wasn't easy. It felt like ripping a huge part of my life away. But I knew it was necessary. I deserved better than to stay with someone who had so blatantly disrespected and hurt me. During this time, Matt was relentless in his attempts to win me back. He called, he texted, and he even turned up uninvited, all to beg me to take him back. He tried to minimize what had happened, calling it a slip-up or a mistake, as if cheating on me with my cousin could be something small or forgivable. But I refused to let his words influence me. I had made my decision, and I would stand by it. When I finally filed for divorce, Matt's tone changed. It was as if the reality of the situation hit him, and he no longer felt the need to pretend. It was then that he admitted the whole truth to me. He and Rhea hadn't just been together that night. They had been sleeping together behind my back for weeks. Weeks of lies, sneaking around in deceit, while I was busy trusting them and making Rhea feel welcome in my home. But the most disgusting part of it all came next. Matt shamelessly told me he was in love with Rhea. He said he had been for a while and admitted that, in some twisted way, he was relieved that I had found out. "I wish you hadn't caught us red-handed," he said, "but I'm glad everything is out in the open now. Rhea and I can finally start dating." His words made me feel physically sick. The idea of my 40-something-year-old husband claiming to be in love with a woman who had just graduated from college, my cousin no less, was disgusting. The age difference between them made everything even more nauseating. To me, they didn't seem like a couple, they seemed like a father and a daughter. And yet he wanted to go out with her, to show her off, to build a future with her, as if their whole relationship wasn't built on betraying me. At that moment, I realized that I wanted nothing to do with this. Let them have each other. If Matt wanted Rhea, then fine, he could have her. If Rhea wanted to settle for my leftovers, then so be it, they deserved each other. Whatever mess came out of their relationship was no longer my problem. During the divorce proceedings, I made sure to stand my ground and take as much as I possibly could from Matt. He had humiliated, betrayed, and destroyed the life we had built together, so I felt no guilt in extracting as much alimony from him as I could. I wanted him to feel the weight of his actions, not just emotionally but financially too. By the time the proceedings were over, he was humiliated, and I walked away knowing that I had fought for what I deserved. Fortunately, we had no children, so there was no need to worry about custody battles or how this mess could affect innocent children. That was the one small blessing in all this chaos. Anyway, true to their word, after the divorce, Matt and Rhea began to openly date, just as she had told me during her disgusting confession. They became a couple, flaunting their relationship for all to see. As you can imagine, this did not go down well with the rest of my family. Most of them were as disgusted as I was. My mother, in particular, was furious. She had a massive argument with her sister, my aunt, about what Rhea had done. My mother couldn't understand how her sister could defend Rhea's actions, or even support her after such a betrayal. That fight was the last straw, and my mother ended up cutting off all contact with her sister. It was a painful but necessary step. Since the divorce and all the family drama, I've been focusing on myself and trying to move on with my life. It hasn't been easy, especially because Matt and Rhea still live in the same city as me. Every day I remind myself that I've overcome the worst. I've taken them out of my life, and I'm stronger for it. Moving on hasn't been easy, but it's been worth every step. This year, Matt and Rhea decided to take their messy and inappropriate relationship to the next level. They sent out wedding invitations to announce that they were getting married. And as if that wasn't enough, they also revealed that Rhea was pregnant with his child. When I first heard the news, I couldn't help but feel a mixture of disgust and disbelief. It was hard to imagine my ex-husband, who once promised me forever, now building a life with my younger cousin. The idea of them getting married and bringing a child into this world felt like the final chapter of his betrayal. But here's the thing. No one in the family wanted anything to do with their wedding. Not a single person accepted their invitation. It was clear that they were all with me and had neither forgiven nor forgotten what Matt and Rhea had done. This, of course, did not sit well with my aunt, Rhea's mother. She contacted me, furious, and accused me of being the reason why her daughter's wedding had become such a sad and lonely affair. According to her, I had ruined Rhea's special day because of the photos I had shared with the family when I first discovered them. Listening to my aunt's diatribe was almost laughable. She told me that I should publicly forgive Matt and Rhea for what they had done, as their love triumphs over everything. That was her excuse, love. As if love could erase the betrayal, the lies, and the complete lack of respect they had shown me. She seemed to think that somehow I was obliged to repair the rift between Rhea and the family, as if I were the one who had done something wrong. Honestly, her anger didn't affect me in the slightest. If anything, it made me feel validated. The fact that no one wanted to attend her wedding just goes to show that my family supported me and saw through the toxic relationship that Matt and Rhea had created. I felt vindicated, knowing that I wasn't alone in how I felt about their betrayal. While my aunt tried to make me feel guilty, I felt nothing but relief to know that the rest of the family refused to celebrate something built on a foundation of lies and pain. Eventually, Matt and Rhea went ahead with their wedding despite the lack of family support. They got married and, shortly afterwards, welcomed their baby into the world. Recently, my grandparents have been working on their will. They are dividing their estate and have chosen to openly share their decisions with everyone in the family. Apparently, my grandparents have chosen not to leave anything to my aunt or Rhea, not a single cent, not a single property, nothing. Instead, they are giving me the part that would have gone to them, in addition to what I had already been assigned in the will. It's hard to put into words how surprised I was when my mother told me. The entire inheritance is an incredible amount, enough to completely change my life for the better. I never expected this. I'm still trying to take it all in. The reason behind their decision is clear. My grandparents know all about what Rhea did to me and how my aunt blindly supported her actions. They have seen the pain, betrayal, and chaos that my aunt and my cousin brought to the family. According to my grandfather, they don't want their inheritance to be tainted by bad blood. Those were his exact words, my mother told me. Leaving anything to my aunt or Rhea would feel like rewarding their atrocious behavior. And my grandparents are not the kind of people who turn a blind eye to wrongdoing. I had no idea about any of this until my mother told me. She said that my grandparents' decision was entirely their own, and neither of us had any say in what they decided to do. However, we couldn't help but feel a sense of justice in their choice. After everything that had happened, it felt as if my aunt and Rhea were finally facing some retribution for their actions. Ever since my aunt and Rhea found out about my grandparents' decision, they have been absolutely furious. My aunt, in particular, has been trying everything she can to change the situation. She started by contacting my mother, begging her to intervene on their behalf. My mother, however, has had enough of her sister's nonsense and was not about to heed her pleas. With no way of reaching my mother, my aunt has now turned her attention to me. She's been bombarding me with messages, begging me to talk to my grandparents and convince them to change their minds. It's laughable, really. After all that's happened, she expects me to be her advocate. The irony is not lost on me. She even tried to approach my grandparents directly, but that didn't go down well either. As soon as she mentioned it, my grandparents completely silenced her. They made it clear that their decision was final, and, to make it even firmer, they forbade her from returning to their house. Rhea, of course, has also decided to intervene. She didn't call or send text messages, but wrote me a long email that I read with equal parts amusement and disbelief. In the email, she had the audacity to accuse me of holding a grudge against her after all this time. She tried to paint herself as the victim, saying that I was being cruel by allowing my grandparents' decision to stand, and that the rest of the family was punishing her unfairly. She even tried to play the sympathy card by saying that, for the sake of her son, I should talk to our grandparents and give her back her share of the inheritance. Rhea went on to say that I shouldn't be punished for being happy and in love with my ex-husband, as if their relationship was some fairy tale romance instead of the result of lies and betrayal. She claimed it wasn't her fault that I was miserable and lonely, which honestly amused me even more. She was clearly trying to manipulate me, trying to make me feel small so that I would feel pressured to give in to her demands. She even went so far as to call my grandparents' decision unfair and demanded that I fix it. Fix what exactly? The mess that she and my aunt created with their own actions? The sense of entitlement that dripped from her words was mind-blowing. After everything they've done, they still see themselves as deserving of generosity and understanding, as if their betrayal wasn't significant enough to justify any damage. Obviously, I don't want to do it, but just in case they read it, AITA for this, update 1. Thank you all for your comments. Honestly, reading the email made me angry too. It made me realize how delusional and self-centered both Rhea and my aunt are. They refuse to take responsibility for the pain they have caused, and instead try to make me feel guilty for undoing what they see as an injustice. But here's the truth. My grandparents' decision is theirs and theirs alone. They have seen the truth of the situation, and their actions reflect their values. It is not my job to fix anything for people who have never shown remorse or responsibility for their behavior. If Rhea and my aunt feel hurt or left out, they have no one to blame but themselves. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update. It seemed that my aunt couldn't accept the reality of the situation, even after we had tried to ignore it until now. She was unwilling to let go of the inheritance or acknowledge that the decision had been made. Even though my grandparents told her several times that their decision was final, she decided to confront them once again. This time, however, her behavior crossed the line. Apparently, when my aunt showed up at my grandparents' house, she launched into another tirade demanding that they reverse their decision, accusing them of being unfair and continuing to try to manipulate them into changing their minds. She was also drunk and was becoming very aggressive towards my grandparents. She called them many swear words that I don't want to repeat here. My grandfather probably had enough of her harassment. He called the police for harassment and trespassing. Even when the police arrived, my aunt did not leave quietly and continued to make a scene. She fought with the police, and her refusal to cooperate led to her arrest. It was quite a spectacle, and as you can imagine, it was incredibly embarrassing for my grandparents. Honestly, I couldn't believe it when they told me. However, I feel like my aunt brought it on herself. If only she had respected my grandparents' wishes from the start, none of this would have happened. It's hard to see someone act so recklessly and ignore the boundaries that others have set. Given what has happened and knowing how far my aunt is willing to go to get her way, we have now installed security cameras around my grandparents' property so they can always feel safe and know exactly who is coming to their door. My grandparents are elderly, and the last thing we want is for them to feel unsafe or to have to deal with another unnecessary confrontation. The cameras will not only help monitor the area, but will also give my grandparents peace of mind, knowing that if anything else were to happen, there is a record of it. As if this wasn't enough, Matt has now contacted me on LinkedIn. Of all platforms, this was the only one I had forgotten to block him on. It's truly unbelievable. He messaged me asking if he could have a face-to-face conversation with him and Rhea. He wrote about how this ongoing fight between us had gone on long enough and that it was time for us to bury the hatchet by talking things through. I had to read his message several times just to make sure I wasn't imagining it. The audacity of it all is staggering. The man who betrayed me, cheated on me with my cousin, married her, and is now raising a child with her, is asking me to have a conversation with him and Rhea, as if everything that happened could just be forgotten. He wants me to discuss it with them, as if it were a simple misunderstanding. The fact that he thinks I should listen to them, that he somehow believes he has some right to make demands of me after everything he has done, is truly mind-blowing. The nerve of this man is absolutely astonishing. There is no axe to grind here. What really bothers me is that Matt and Rhea still don't seem to understand the gravity of their actions. They act as if all they need to do is apologize or try to justify their choices, and magically all would be well in the family, but it's not that simple, and it never will be. They have no right to ask anything of me, especially not after they have destroyed my world. I have no desire to get involved with them in any way, shape, or form. I'm sick of them, and I'm certainly not going to entertain any more attempts to patch things up when they've already caused so much damage. Update 3. It's been 2 weeks since my last update, and just when I was starting to think that things had finally started to calm down, Rhea, my cousin, showed up at my door yesterday. When I opened the door and saw her standing there, I was stunned. I wanted to slam the door in her face and be done with it, but Rhea immediately started begging me. She begged me to listen to her, saying that she knew how much I hated her, but that she just needed a few minutes of my time. Her tone was desperate. I could see the emotion in her eyes, but that didn't change anything for me. I firmly asked her to leave again, which is when she tried to scare me. Ria said that if I didn't listen to her, she would keep showing up at my door. This, of course, was meant to pressure me into talking to her. She thought that if she kept showing up at my house, I would eventually give in and have that conversation she so desperately wanted, but I wasn't going to let her manipulate me like that. I told her directly, bluntly, that if she continued to show up uninvited, I would call the police. The moment I said that, I could see her expression change, her face wrinkled, and I could tell she was struggling to hold back tears. I didn't feel sorry for her, though. If anything, I felt more anger than pity. Ria, in a last, desperate attempt to make me feel for her, tried to explain herself. She told me she knew how much she had hurt me, but that she wished she could go back and change the past. She went on to tell me that she and Matt were more perfect for each other than he and I ever were. She even went so far as to say that it wasn't really their fault that they had always been attracted to each other. I almost wanted to throw up when I heard that. Then she told me how she, Matt, and her son were now a family, and that I was trying to unnecessarily damage her son's future by taking away their share of the inheritance. I shook my head at her. She was again trying to make me feel guilty so that I would give them back their share of the inheritance, as if I owed them something. Listening to her made me feel a combination of disgust and disbelief. She had no sense of responsibility for what she had done. She wasn't sorry for betraying me with Matt, and she wasn't taking responsibility for the damage her affair had caused. "Listen to me, Ria," I said, barely containing my anger. "I don't care about your tearjerker story. You can't come into my life, destroy everything, and then play the victim. You betrayed me. You slept with my husband. And you're trying to justify it like it's some kind of fairy tale. Well, guess what? You're no princess. You're just a traitor. And now you're here, demanding forgiveness. You've got a lot of nerve." I saw her eyes begin to fill with tears, but her tears no longer moved me. "Do you think I'm going to sit here and listen to your lies after everything you've done?" I sneered. "No. I'm glad I'm getting all the money, and you and your family will get nothing. No amount of pleading will change anyone's decision here. So if you think about showing up here again, I will get a restraining order against you so fast it will make your head spin. You will regret ever having set foot on my doorstep." Her face twisted in frustration, and she started to argue again, but without another word, I slammed the door in her face. She could scream, she could cry, she could beg all she wanted, but I was completely fed up with her. Since then, my mother and I have decided to talk to a lawyer and really consider getting a restraining order against them. I'm really tired of these people not leaving us alone.